You know what? Hold back on that.
There'll be more food.
Because people get distracted with that stuff.
This will finish this one.
And then,
This will finish this tape, 37 minutes.
okay, so we'll be passing these out at the lunchtime. That'll work good. So I'm going to share something with you from the issue of failure to identify, and yeah. This is just a lesson on something that comes up. I'm using this thing about failure to identify, but it's got other lessons in it. You'll see when we get through it. So failure to identify is something that's all over the country, and so the cop stops you, for instance. He says, "Let me see your driver's license," and you say, "What's the problem, officer?" And he says, I already asked you to show me your driver's license." Well, officer, I wasn't speeding. I didn't make a wrong turn. Enough! I asked you twice for your driver's license. Get out of the car. I'm charging you with failure to identify. It can happen that quick. Okay? Failure to identify is akin to contempt of cop. Okay? It's like something that they can charge you with almost no matter what. You know, I mean, they can just maneuver you into it. You know, and then say, "Well, you failed to identify, and that's that." You know, and then hauling you off to jail. Anyway, I don't identify, so they frequently haul me off. So they bring this case against me, and I was in Kristen Wade's court. Okay.
Who's in what?
Kristen Wade's court. I mentioned her earlier. Her dad was wanted to handle Roe versus Wade, and we got Don Terry, who's with Rule of Law Radio and all that. We got him out in an hour in Kristen Wade's court. But anyway, there I am charged with failure to identify. So they put the officer on the stand, and after he identifies himself, the prosecutor asks him to identify the defendant. He says, "Yeah, this is the guy sitting there with the big beard." Okay, and so then the prosecutor runs a line of questioning, something along these lines that I can't remember it verbatim, but to the effect like, well, on the date and time that you approached Mr. Fox, did you ask him for his identification? Yes, I did. Did he identify himself? No, he did not. Did you explain to him that we have a law that requires it? Yes, I explained it to him. Did he identify himself then? No, he did not. Did you explain to him that he could go to jail? Yes, I did. Did he identify himself then? No, he did not. And so what happened next? Well, I got him out of the Suburban and put him in the backseat of the cruiser car. Well, did he identify himself then? No, he did not. He refused. What happened next? We took him to jail. Did he identify himself at the jail? No, he did not. He refused. Now, is it clear to everyone here that I broke their law? Appears so, right? So they're satisfied that they got it. Okay, they got it. But I do get the chance to cross-examine this guy. So I said to him, "Well, isn't it a fact that in order to be a police officer, you had to swear an oath to support the Constitution?" "Well, yes, sir." "You did that?" "Yeah." "Okay. And on that date and time that you approached me, you were armed, weren't you?" I said, "What do you mean armed?" I said, "Well, you had a 9mm on your hip, right?" I said, "No, it was a 6-hour 45. I said, "Very well, you were armed." And so I said, "So having sworn an oath to support the Constitution, you attacked me by force of arms and attempted to compel me to be a witness against myself in direct breach of the Fifth Amendment. Isn't that so? And perfidiously breaking your own oath, and you're in felony breach of oath. Well, the cop is on the witness stand like, the judge and the prosecutor both jumped out of their skins, case dismissed. Just like that. And I can't tell you how many people pay, because they'll fine you $100 to $300 for that. So it's that kind of thing. Like I say, you can win on the law, you can win on the facts, you can win on the procedure, you can win on the council issue alone, you can win by prayer power, you can win by fluke.
What were the words that you said?
I can't remember them verbatim, but it was just the gist of it. The gist of it was that I challenged him on the fact that he had sworn an oath to support the Constitution, and that by his actions, what he had done was attack me by force of arms and attempt to compel me to be a witness against myself.
Well, how did he attack you?
Forcing you to go to jail.
Okay. If somebody comes up to you and says, "Buddy, can you spare a dime for a hobo?" That's one thing. If somebody else comes up to you with a gun and says, "I need your money."
The difference being, although the gun was not drawn, is implied.
Yeah, well, they have various stages with that, because they could come up to you and their hands can be visible, or they could come up to you with their hand on the gun.
As they do.
Okay? And in some cases, like we were coming back from Arkansas, and Steve LaRue is behind the steering wheel in the Suburban, and I'm in the seat behind him. And this jerk of a police officer pulled us over the license plate light. Now, all the lights were working when we got on the road, because Rick, the audiovisual guy that was with us, checked all the lights before we left Arkansas. And so we're in Paris, Texas, and we get stopped for license plate light issue. And because Steve just asked him a question, the guy pulled his gun out, he's a two-handed position, and about to shoot Steve in the head. And I'm sitting right in a direct line to this, Can you imagine the kind of stupidity? And in point of fact, they jailed Steve, and I was challenging several of the city officials at the court and everything else to, because this cop's got no business pulling out his gun over a license plate light. And this is something that you have to understand. These things are not crimes. Everyone knows that light bulbs are going to burn out at some time. And you could check it on the hour, every hour. And 15 minutes into it, the light bulb burns out. You know what I'm saying? Nonsense. What they should do is just say, your license plate light is burnt out. You need to get it fixed. Well, thank you, officer. I see an AutoZone there. I'm going to get the light bulb right now.
I've got a spare.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I always carry spares. I try and carry all that stuff that's necessary in case.
Who says you have to have a light?
Yeah. Who says you have to have a light? That's a good one.
I have a question about that after being stopped. I was stopped for my DOT plate, and when they stopped me, I asked if I was under arrest, and they said no. I said, okay, thank you, you have a nice day, I'm free to go, right? They said, no. I said, okay. They said, you gotta identify yourself. I said, okay. My name is Thomas Galetley, and I invoke the Fifth Amendment right, and I don't care to speak to you. Well, they continued on and on. I invoked that Fifth Amendment right 3-4 times. They continued on and threatened to take my car and everything else. Now, when I go to court, can any of their testimony, anything they did, be used against me since I invoked that Fifth Amendment right?
Well, they should have stopped trying right there. I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question right.
What I want to know is that once I invoked that and they continued to ask questions and continued to demand identification, they would arrest me if I didn't identify myself. I told them I did identify myself. My name is Thomas Coletley. You told me I'm not under arrest. According to Arizona Revised Statute, I don't have to give any further identification than that unless I'm under arrest. And I invoked my Fifth Amendment right. But they continue on and on and on.
Yeah, I would say that you may be able to make some mileage out of that case that I've mentioned a couple times in recall, because they cannot intimidate and threaten and coerce you to accomplish their ends, which again is a violation of their oath of office. Okay, if you get the cop to admit that he kept on asking and pressing and with the issues and he was armed as he did it, then the act is called perfidy. Okay, and so there's the word perfidy and perfidious and perfidiously. So he perfidiously breached his own oath of office, and felony breach of oath, maybe as much as 5 years in prison. And so this guy attacked you by force of arms, breached his own oath. What is his testimony worth at this point?
Him stating his Fifth Amendment right is one thing, but I don't see any reason they couldn't keep asking. But if he would have said, I won't speak without my attorney here, now it's got to stop.
That is a good point. That is a very good point, and but he did tell him that he had nothing more to say to him, and he had invoked his right there. And what they should have said is, you have a right to remain silent, you have a right to have an attorney present during any questioning, and so on. They should have given him the Miranda warning right there, and done so politely. But of course, those guys are like loose cannons. I mean, they're on a power trip, you know, and it's a horror story. But most people don't know. The fact of the matter is, there's statistics, and thousands of people die at arrest. I mean, that guy that was whittling as he's walking down the street,
Right.
you know, and the cop said something to him, and he just continues whittling and walking and doing his thing. But he was deaf, right? Or something?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so they shot and killed him. Or there's a retarded child, Down syndrome. They tried to talk to him, and he was scared, and he ran, and he shot him in the back. I mean, you know, the poor kid didn't have the comprehension of the situation, except that it scared him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't comprehend them asking me for identification either.
He needed his Rambo fix.
Real quick, I had a flash and I'll share an interesting thing with you all. Some people work with this and some don't, of course. Credit card debt. And when they come with, they're going to sue you or whatever, you can inform them that that they need to send all future correspondence to this P.O. box. So we're here in Arizona, so let's say the P.O. box is in Montana. Now, that doesn't mean that you move to Montana. That just means that they're to send all future correspondence to Montana. But they could easily think that that means you moved there. So now they need to package up the stuff and send it back to the bank on this credit card matter, because the attorneys are here in Arizona and they're not going to litigate in Montana. So they send it all back to the bank. Now the bank has to find attorneys in Montana. And as soon as they do, you inform them that send the stuff to this P.O. box in Florida. and pretty quick, they run out of the statute of limitations and they haven't gotten anywhere with their lawsuit. Meanwhile, you haven't even left Arizona. You like it?
And what's the statute?
I'm not sure, but you know, by the time they start, the clock has already been ticking on them for a while, and they only have a certain amount of time left.
Cool.
And even if there was no statute of limitations, how much of it do you think that they could stand?
Hiring attorneys all the time, 0.
You know.
Have a big debt.
There was a thing that one attorney that I know of, like these chits that you sign for the gas, to be put on a gas card, like it's, you know, maybe Shell or Exxon or something like that. So they sue, and his response was, well, I need to have a copy of all of those chits. You have to verify the signature of every one of them. Well, that means they have to send some secretary or file clerk to the file cabinets, and they have to open up all these file cabinets and find this one, and find that one, line them all up on the photocopy machine, make copies of them, send them off. So he lets it sit there for a while, and then he says, writes them back and says, the photocopy's illegible. Now they have to sit there back, pull all these things out again, photocopy them all over again. They send him the copies, sits there for a while, then he sends them a letter saying they're illegible. Did that a couple of times, gone.
You wouldn't chit me, would you?
So how are we doing time-wise?
It's
Fine.
lunchtime.
You want to do it now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
How many minutes left on the tape?
Well, we got about a half hour on the tape. It looks like 35, but because I read it wrong last time. But
it's 10 after.
quarter after 12.
So anytime you want to
Come
break.
back at 1.
Unless you got something important to say.
Five
Want to
minutes.
finish another topic?
Okay, well, we'll break for lunch, and so what I want to do when we get back is I want to basically go through the process, and let's talk about indictments. We'll talk about the various steps of the process and some of the things that you can do that will monkey wrench in your gears.
Good.
I'd like to share something with everybody before Robert gets started again. I think this might be perceived as good news. Okay, there are people like us pushing back all over this country, and it's starting to overwhelm their system, I believe. Is anybody aware of what's going on today, October 2nd, in the pulpits around the country?
What pulpits?
The 501c3 prohibition against churches speaking anything against public policy or political in the pulpit. It comes from Lyndon Johnson when he was a senator, and a couple businessmen disagreed with his position, and were backing the opposition using money from their 501c3s. They didn't happen to be religious 501c3s at that time. So he put this little provision in the IRS code when he was a senator back in the 50s, I presume, that 501c3s can't speak anything political. Well, that's been the the rule, and most of the mainline preachers abide by that. Never been tested in court. A group in 08 decided to test this, so they got 40 preachers to record their sermons and say something political, and then they sent it all to the IRS, and they were going to back the fight and take the position and challenge it. Nothing was said. They just ignored it. So in 09, they got over 80 preachers to do the same thing. Nothing happened. Last year, they got over 100 do the same thing. Today, October 2nd, there's over 400 preachers doing the same thing. So there is momentum building, okay?
That's wonderful.
And this is, I think it's a good thing, okay?
Yes.
So anyway, that's my story.
We were just commenting that things are getting worse.
And I think, and I think that's why we're seeing so much increased activity from them, because there are so many people pushing back.
Well, if it hits the pulpits, I
Becoming
guess
aware.
it's good.
Yeah. When it starts hitting the pulpits, it's very good.
These.
Can you zoom in on that?
We're on. So, this sign here, from this gentleman here, and they're normally 20, but if for anyone in the group, it's 15. So, I've never seen as nicely done as that. Congratulations, it's nicely done. And it's metal.
Minor and expiration.
What is it? What is that?
The no trespassing sign. This gentleman here had it custom made, and he sells them for 20, but for the group, anyone in this group can get them from him today for 15.
However, there needs to be a warning on that. If you post that in your house or near your house, and the IRS sees it, they will classify you as a potentially dangerous taxpayer. I'm serious. I know, they'll change your file.
We're sitting in this room.
Well, but potentially dangerous one.
I'm just telling you.
Potentially
If you don't mind, they change your status.
Potentially dangerous taxpayer.
As for me, I'm already known as a terrorist.
You're in good company.
The way the wise.
That brings up a point. I am so glad to meet all of you people. It's always wonderful to meet people of like mind, and it's difficult to deal with the brain dead, the people who
Don't want to know.
that you need to pay your fair share, that they think that ragheads from some cave in Afghanistan knocked down the World Trade Center, that the Murrah building, that McVeigh did that with a truck bomb. That's a bunch of hooey. He deserves a Nobel Prize for the world's first suck bomb. To actually, figure it out. This is the building, and this is the truck. How did this truck suck steel reinforced concrete out of the building and put it over here?
I just figured it out. You are.
If this truck exploded, it would blow in, not suck steel reinforced concrete out. It's just,
What was the hole in the bottom of the truck in the street?
did you know that there were security cameras and all that stuff around, and that they seized 42 tapes? There was one guy who showed up in Pennsylvania that had one of the tapes. They did a raid on him, completely, tore his place apart, took the tape, put him in prison. In Terry Nichols' trial, they never showed any of the tapes. Of course, the size the university seismographic thing showed that there were 2 explosions.
21 seconds
Well,
apart.
yeah, and basically what happened is the building blew up before the truck. and
There's 2 commas behind the building too that didn't blow up.
right, and the initial newscasts were that the fire department and paramedics couldn't go in because they were still removing bombs from the building.
Right.
What? McVeigh had access to the inside of the building and installed bombs on the pillars?
That was the day before.
Yeah, that was the day before. Of course, coincidentally, the ATF had the day off.
Yeah.
Robert, on the Ferguson versus Hirons document you handed out, you said you're going to make additional comments about that.
Off tape.
Oh, yeah, that's right, off tape. We haven't started yet?
Yeah.
We have?
I can stop it.
Okay, pause.
Quick, ready?
Pause.
9.
We're back.
Okay, we're on?
We're on.
All right, so 10:30 at night, I get a call from a housewife down in Austin, Texas, and she tells me that her husband, Jeff Skiba, has been arrested by the FBI and U.S. Marshals, that he had come to Dallas to help a woman in her tax case, and that he got himself arrested and he's in jail, and he's accused of threatening to murder a federal judge. Can I get him out of jail? That's a bit more than a parking ticket now, isn't it? and so I said, well, I'll check into it. So the first thing up, because this is like immediate, her call was, when he was arrested. Not when he was arrested, because it was 10:30 at night, but it was like the day he was arrested. And so, first thing coming up is probable cause hearing. So I go there, and they bring Jeff Skiba in the orange jumpsuit, handcuffs, leg irons, manacled together, and a waist belt, and all that stuff. And this poor fellow is like in shell shock. I mean, he doesn't know which way is up. I mean, I could tell right away he was non-functional. And so I stood up in the front row of the audience area, and I said, excuse me, Mr. Skiba I said, excuse me, amicus curiae, Mr. Skiba has witnesses to call. And the U.S. Marshals ran towards me like they were going to tackle me off the field. Now, they came right up on me, but they didn't dare touch me because I wouldn't be an assault. I had their hot breath on my face as I stayed focused with what I'm doing with the judge. And they called witnesses, and in the federal system, just about anything constitutes probable cause. I mean, I could hardly believe what they were talking. Anyway, the judge says, well, we find that there's probable cause to hold him over. I'm going to set the bond. I think he said he was going to set the bond on Monday. So, come back on Monday. I'm in the front row of the audience, and they bring Skiba in, and again, he's like in shell shock. I mean, you could just tell he was non-functional. So again, I stood up in the front row of the audience area and said, excuse me, amicus curiae, Mr. Skiba has witnesses to call. Again, the U.S. Marshals were right on top of me, got their hot breath on my face, and I'm staying focused with the judge. And I'm calling his witnesses and running his case from the front row of the audience area. And sometime, if you want to hear it, my friend Brady was there, and Brady could hardly believe what he was watching himself. Because, I mean, there are people here that have been in court a bunch of times. Have you ever seen anything like that? Somebody running the case from the front row of the audience area?
No.
Not an attorney?
No.
So I call in Skiba's witnesses, and Skiba brightened up, and he caught the flow of things, and so then he calls me as a witness. So I go, and I cross the bar, and I'm headed towards the witness stand, and the judge says, 1-on-1, Mr. Fox. You need to raise your right hand and repeat after me. And I said, I have a religious objection to the oath, and pursuant to Matthew 5:33 and 37, James 5:12 says, make no swearing at all. Anyway, I said, I got a religious objection, and he said, well, you can affirm, can't you? I said, well, affirm is a euphemism for oath. I'm not going to do the oath. I don't affirm. And then he said, well, I'm not going to let you testify then. Oh, okay. So I turn around and I'm headed back to the audience area. And the assistant U.S. attorney jumps up, and I mean, this guy is gasping and sputtering. Your Honor, we had some previous experience with this, Mr. Fox. The Circuit Court of Appeals, they said it would be okay, so long as he says under penalty of perjury. You know? And you should have seen the look on the judge's face. Like his world was being turned inside out and upside down. What in the world is the assistant U.S. attorney doing, trying to qualify Mr. Skiba's witness against the government? You know? And he paused and he says, there could be some sort of error here if I were to rule against Skiba. However, I'm inclined to rule in his favor. I'm going to set the bond at $3,000. Well, then this guy, the assistant U.S. attorney, really goes ballistic. We appeal. Well, naturally, because for $3,000, it was through a bondsman, it would be peanuts. Skiba could be shopping for a high-power rifle with telescopic sights that afternoon. You know? I mean, this is a serious charge, threatening to murder a federal judge. So, anyway, it was like pandemonium, and it was just like, and the reason this particular U.S. attorney, assistant U.S. attorney, was so agitated is because I'd already sunk him in the previous case. Okay? Anyway, when this happened like it happened with me, right there, of course, they took Skiba back to jail because the government appealed. It's the interlocutory appeal, it stops everything. And the $3,000 bond setting is frozen, and Skiba goes back to jail until the issue is settled. Okay? So I went home and thought about it, did up the amicus curiae affidavit, and I have some of these papers right here. Copying them is difficult because the copy machine is not working right now. Where do we have this? Yeah, here it is. I can pass this around, but I'd like to get it back. But in the front here is the criminal complaint, which threatened to assault and murder the Honorable A. Joe Fish, United States District Judge, with intent to retaliate against Judge Fish on account of the performance of his official duties. And then there's the docket, and there's page 1, 2, 3. Here we go on page 3. This is where I entered my amicus curiae affidavit. Immediately after that is motion by USA to dismiss, order granting. Motion by USA to dismiss, order granting. Motion by USA to dismiss, order granting. They had to back out of the appeal, the case, the complaint, everything. You know what I'm saying? They had to back out of all of it. Case dismissed. All this happened like machine gun fire after I filed this amicus curiae. And
Why is that?
Yeah, why is that?
the Ferguson case. The reason is because of the Ferguson case, which people, y'all have it?
Right.
Yeah, it was passed out. Everybody got it.
Oh, yes.
Do you have it, Carla? The Ferguson case? No, I mean,
Yes, it was passed out on it's sideways on a piece of paper.
Oh, okay.
It was the first one today.
Fine print sideways.
That's it. This one.
So is this whole thing the Ferguson case right here?
Yes.
Well, it's the first 2 pages of the case, but there's more to it. But the thing is that the point is made in the first 2 pages anyway. The rest is more and more of the same. You know, the United States Supreme Court, they quote several cases there that the United States Supreme Court, Wisconsin versus Yoder, etc., and other cases. The thing is that all those cases support the premise that the First Amendment, they didn't make it the 7th or the 12th or 8th. First Amendment is number 1 for a reason. And, you know, free speech and religious freedom, it's all in there. And on the religious freedom aspect, like I mentioned yesterday, religious freedom is a real powerful tool. And you know, like the church with the Brazilian tribe, they got their tea, whether customs and the Department of Justice liked it or not. You know,
What kind of tea was
that?
Schedule 1.
Yeah. So, anyway, there's cases there that and some of the stuff that they didn't even cover, but they do cover it on that second page there of the Ferguson thing, and it says that inquiry by government is foreclosed. Right? You see that there? You're looking at the 3rd column, about 3/4 of the way down, and it says that inquiry by...
Protection of the free exercise clause, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
It extends to all sincere religious beliefs. Courts may not evaluate religious truths.
Right. Right. And doesn't it say the inquiry is foreclosed to government?
It's not highlighted.
Okay. Is it there somewhere? Or am I crossing it with another case? But anyway, what the Supreme Court has said that man may have spiritual experiences that are so profound there are no words for it. And it affects them, you know, to the core of their being. And that when it comes to those kind of things, inquiry by government is foreclosed. So, you know, I can't pay the taxes. Well, why? Well, Moses parted the Red Sea and Jesus turned the water to wine. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, it doesn't have to make sense to you. It makes sense to me. You know, inquiry is foreclosed to government. You know, but if you didn't want to get into it, you'd say, well, Jesus turned the water to wine, and he didn't have to pay a tax. Like, you know, these distillers around here have to do.
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Yeah. And this thing of render unto Caesar is frequently used as a thing about the taxes and justifying it, especially from the pulpit, amazingly enough. And I have a different understanding. I'll share it with you, and you can tell me if it makes any sense to you. In the scriptures, the scribes and the Pharisees came to him with trick questions, and their intent was to trip him up so they could run to the Roman centurion and say, look what he said, blah, 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 you know, and get him in trouble. And So that was their intent, and they asked this question, and he said to them, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and unto God that which is God's. So they couldn't run to the Roman centurion because he would have said, well, that's right. I mean, you render unto Caesar. They would have had nothing to complain about. But there was something more to it, because after that, the scriptures say that they went away and never dared ask another question. And the reason is, as far as I'm concerned, the reason is that if you understand, read between the lines, what he was saying to them was that you guys are the scribes and the Pharisees. You're the attorneys of the day. You know the law. The only law we got is what Moses brought to us by the hand of the Almighty. So you know this law, and so render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. Which means this guy is coming over the horizon, pounding his chest, declaring, I am Caesar, and tithe unto me. Okay, so guys, do not pass go, like in the Monopoly game where you collect money. Do not pass go. Go directly to Caesar and render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. Stone the sucker to death for blasphemy. And they were like, and they never dared to ask another question. And he couldn't tell the Roman centurion because he wouldn't understand anyway.
That's amazing.
Yes, Jesus was a tax protester.
Back in Luke, when he was brought before Pontius Pilate, that's one of the claims against him, because he taught not to pay taxes.
I'm talking about the chest pounding demigod coming over the hill. I am God, render unto me that which is mine.
You need to step up
Hey,
there
Mike,
and
if
speak.
you're gonna talk, let's use the microphone so it comes over
Okay.
the DVD.
Yeah, I forgot. Never mind.
Well, isn't that what Caesar was doing? Yeah, in the Roman Empire, Caesar was God. And arbitrarily and capriciously, if he got in a drunken stupor and didn't like what somebody said or looked like or whatever, behead him. or feed him to the lions in the Colosseum. Did anyone want to look at this? Should I pass this around?
Yes.
No guarantees, though.
Okay. Mr. Heitman brought up an issue that was off microphone, and it was about when the court tells you that you can't file anything anymore. And a thing like that came up with John McGladdery, and I was helping him, and a bunch of stuff got filed in the case, and some of it was very serious. That the judge just didn't want to deal with the stuff, and we kept on pounding on it, and so the judge ordered that, and this was in his civil case, the judge ordered that he couldn't file any more papers, and they were having a hearing. And this was going to be like, things were coming to a head in the civil case, and they wanted to seize a whole bunch of the property. And of course, that's what the whole scam is about anyway, because they don't sue anybody who's living in a cardboard box under the freeway. Those guys, they leave alone. But if you got something, assets, they want to take them away. So anyway, John was upset, of course, and I said, well, the hearing was coming up the next day, and I said to John, because he had, how did it go? He had just gotten a message on the telephone answering machine, and he hadn't picked up the mail or something, I forget what, but it was like a last minute notice of the situation, and he hadn't told me, that was it, he hadn't told me, and I had told him to remind me of things, and he had forgotten one thing and another. So anyway, we're stuck in this situation. The hearing's tomorrow, and the judge has already ordered we can't file anything, and John is upset, okay? So, because he's looking at losing assets. And I said, well, John, since you're the guy who has to be in the courtroom tomorrow up in Chicago, and I said, I'm going to work all night to handle this situation. And I said, by sunrise, the stuff will be rolling off your fax machine. And then I said, as soon as you have it in hand, call me, and I will go over the instructions with you. So that's what we did. And, you know, the stuff is rolling off the fax machine as the sun is rising. And so John calls, and we talk about it, and I said, here's what you do. You make your copies, you get them all notarized and stuff, and you take them down to the courthouse, and you be there as soon as they open, and you get this stuff into the county clerk and recorder, and you record it all right there, and then you take it in, and you're not filing it as such with the court, you're giving the court notice, okay? And I've drawn up a bunch of criminal complaints against the judge in the document, which is now notarized and in the public record. And John is in the courtroom, and they started up on him, and he said, one moment. He said, here's your copy, here's the prosecutor's copy. And they looked at it and they were aghast. You know, they took an immediate recess. And the prosecutor and the judge go to the judge's chambers. And I showed you that diagram with the triangle about ex parte communications. They left John standing there in the courtroom, and the two of them went off to the judge's chambers to discuss the problem. And they come back in after their ex parte communications. And they determine that this case needs to be put off to some time in the future. Like as in, and they didn't say this, but like as in when hell freezes over. And that was it. Finished.
You still have a copy of that?
I don't know. I don't think so. See, what's happened to me, Mike, is that
I know.
They have attacked me several times. I'm not kidding. I've had 9mm at my head where they tell me, you know, I'm out of here, and there's been all kinds of my stuff stolen, and, you know, I've been put out of places, and, you know, forced moves and the rest of that, and SWAT attacks, and, you know, the thing with the SWAT attacks back in Jacksonville, when they came on the third attack, they came with a 16-foot trailer. They took all the computers, all the file cabinets, all the files, all that stuff. And, I mean, leaving me to sit in a chair, look at a blank wall, you know, that's when I left Jacksonville and went down to Austin and was studying criminal complaints with Randy Kelton. And
Die.
Another assassination.
So, what got him, I mean, they put me in jail. I was in jail for 3 days and got out on a Friday. But we made a beeline, just with Judy Scott at the wheel, we made a beeline to the FBI office in Tyler. And I spoke with the head guy over FBI over all of East Texas. And this is the guy who, by the way, in Jacksonville, they had a police officer that had already raped some 30 women. Now you wonder, how can you get beyond 1? How do you get beyond 3? How do you get beyond 5? This guy raped like 30 women. Protected by the police department, protected by the city, protected by the county. Raping women with his uniform and his badge and his gun, raping them in the cemetery. He'd take them there and he'd rape them there. But this guy in Tyler, the top FBI agent over all of East Texas, he's the one that came into Cherokee County and arrested the guy. And he was a black man, and I said to him, I said, you got to do something. They're trying to murder me. And he said, Mr. Fox, they're not going to murder you. And I was like, what do you know about it? You know? And I mean, well, let me preface this, because I'm actually starting a missing piece here. On June the 11th, when they arrested me, June 11th, 2008, they put me in the jail, the city jail, and like I say, they were loading up the 16-foot trailer with all this stuff. And I'm on the mat there in the jail.